Hi guys, my today's story is gonna be about Northeast Airgun Classic competitions that took place in the end of April 2023. So it was rather unexpected for me competitions because I didn't thought to go there, to tell you the truth, because those ones were the new ones. I understood that it's the biggest as of the date competitions on east of United States, but after I understood that all the circumstances comes to the place that allows me to go there, of course I couldn't miss my chance. So I used it and I bought the airplane tickets, I registered, I booked the hotel, and I went there. Of course it was a new challenge for me because I've never been there. I've never been at that place. I didn't know the specifics. So will I have any opportunity to sight in there, to practice, to check my guns, and so on and so on. So the only guys I knew from New York State were Keith Gibson and his family, and I asked a ton of questions. So is there any shooting range? What conditions will there be? Will I be able to prepare my gun, and so on and so on. And Keith and his family, they're just awesome guys. They told me, look man, our farm is at the absolutely the same level above the sea as the shooting place where competitions will be. So why don't you stay a few days at our place, at our farm? We have a good workshop, we have a good shooting range, so you could check everything and sight in and be prepared and get rid of your jet lag. And of course I said yes, because first of all, it's an excellent experience to live in a family of your good mates, because I didn't have too much experience communicating with Keith and Nicole and his family before. We met at Rocky Mountain Airgun Challenge in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, where he took the first place. But at the very first moment I've started communicating with him, I understood that he is such a cool guy. And of course I said yes, and it was an honor for me to live there, and to live there not as a guest, but as a part of a family. And it is absolutely the same as Russian people do when they receive a guest at their house. So I was very happy about it. But let's go a bit back. So let's start from the very beginning of my trip. It was a long day for me because I wake up early every day at about 5 o'clock in the morning usually, and my race was at 1 o'clock night, so after midnight. I had a long day before. I had my job day, I packed all the things, then I went to the airport. Then I had my flight to Istanbul because due to sanctions we're not allowed to go directly to New York, for example. We have to use some third parties countries, so to say. So most of people, they go to Turkey, it's Istanbul, and there they go to New York. So the flight to Istanbul took about 4.5 hours. And I'm a big guy, and it's a real problem for me to sleep in economy class in airplanes, so usually I can't sleep there. So I didn't have any sleep at the time. And then there was a 3 hours transfer time, and then I boarded to airplane to New York, and it took me 10 hours to get to New York. As I declared that I bring a gun with me, and airplane companies, they don't care if it is a firearm or an air gun, they check it as a firearm. There was a special person who met me in the airport, and he helped me to pass the passport control and customs much faster. I would say that it would be in usual way, but when we were waiting for my baggage, we found out that Turkish Airlines were not able to deliver some of my bags, and it was a problem because they were my selected pellets, they were my selected slugs to shoot PRS, and many other really needed stuff for me. So it was a problem. So luckily that guy helped me to apply for lost baggage, and he assured me, the same as Turkish Airlines company assured me, that my baggage will be delivered to Keith's place till Wednesday. I set that date as the latest date because I have to leave Thursday morning to competition. So they had about, it was Sunday, so they had about 4 days to deliver. So I expected it to be so. After that, I rented a tour car. It's much more cheaper than official rental from some companies. So I used it. I took my Toyota Prius car because fuel is rather expensive in the United States, especially if to compare it with Russian prices. So, and I understood that I had to go long distances. It's a nice car, especially if you fold back seats. It allows you to put all your guns with you, all your baggage, and so on and so on. When I mentioned that the road to Keith's place, it's I would say that it's north of New York State, is really beautiful for me, because in Russia, in Moscow region, we live in rather plain terrains, I would say, and here I have seen some hills, mountains, and beautiful roads. They met me really warm, the same way as I would meet my best friends or family members. They met me with very tasty homemade food, their homemade drinks, and I want to mention that I've never tasted something as good as their bourbon, and they also make gin and vodka, and those are the highest quality drinks. Because I make spirits in Russia by myself. It is allowed here if you make it for yourself. So I also try to make the highest quality because I never sell them. Just we use it with my family, with my parents, with my relatives. But Keith's drinks were much better. So yes, we had a really good time. We had really good food, and the scenery at his farm just it's awesome because it is situated on the hill, and you can observe all the far mountains, all the lower places, and we went to the highest hill where his mother's house is situated on the sunset, and I really had pleasure. My eyes had pleasure, my soul had pleasure watching all the beauty of nature that is there. And it was my first time ever experience having such a perfect sleep when I'm abroad. I was absolutely calm. I had about 6 hours of sleep, but I opened the windows in my sleeping room, and the very fresh air and all this calm and friendly atmosphere allowed me to rest really well there. So the next day I started all the works I needed to do. It's upgrade of my FX ground, so I had to check if everything is okay. Luckily I didn't lost it during delivery to the airport. And great thanks to Utah Airguns, and I'm as a Utah Airguns team member asked them to send me FX Panthera because I have one at home in Russia, and it wouldn't be too easy for me to take two guns with me out of Russia. So I asked them to send me Panthera. I had some spare parts with me to make it almost the same as I have it in Russia. So Keith allowed me to use his men's cave, and it is something amazing. Such a huge amount of firearms, air arms, crossbows, old-timers guns. It's something awesome. And I used his workshop to do all the works I need. He supported me in all the ways I needed. So again, just I don't have enough words, and I'm not too good in English to express all my gratitude I have to his family, and it was really so cool. After making some tuning of my crown and upgrading the Panthera to the way I like, a rain started, but I had an opportunity to shoot at Keith's shooting range because he has a shelter there. and I checked my guns to 110 yards, and I checked the ballistics shooting some groundhogs, steel targets, although it was rather cold and windy, and everything was fine, and I just wanted to do something good for that guys, and I prepared traditional Russian meat with vegetables, and we had dinner that I prepared myself. I wouldn't say that I succeeded 100%, but it was not as bad, so it was okay. I want to say just a few words about the nature. I think that for you guys from United States or Europe, probably it is, I would say, usual situation that leaving city for 3 hours road drive and getting turkeys, rabbits, deers, and I don't know, squirrels and some other wild animals is okay, but it's not that happens in center of Russia. I would say it's not possible to go 3 hours from Moscow and to meet all that wild animals just passing the road or not far from the road. So it really amazed me. I really liked all the farm and all the animals that Keith and his family has there. So it's cows, pigs, chickens. They have special warm house to grow their plants like tomatoes and some others. I really liked it, and so it's the way of life that is correct as for me to live like. Of course, it's not easy at all because they don't have any weekends. They can't allow themselves being ill because you have to spare all your time with your farm, and it's a lot of work to do. So it's a hard work, and I understand it very well because some of my relatives live that way, and it's really challenging, but you can feel unity with nature. So on late Tuesday, I had a phone call from delivery company that works with Turkish Airlines, and they informed me that they are not absolutely sure will they be able to deliver my baggage that I was luckily found on Wednesday. And as far as I had to leave on Tuesday morning to Northeast Airgun Classic registration and sight-in, I decided to go early morning Wednesday on my own to New York and to New York Airport JFK. It took over 6 hours for me just to go there and back. Of course, I was a bit tired, but luckily I could get all my goods, all my baggage that was lost, and everything was safe and sound there. And of course they were selected pellets, they were my own slugs that I used to shoot, but also there was my homemade Russian bourbon and homemade Russian rum. So we had an opportunity to test the product that I make myself here in Russia. It was also a fun experience. Of course I was tired, but I had the whole Wednesday to get my own pellets and slugs checked, to check the ballistics and to make sure that everything was fine. And I was absolutely happy because I had an time and had my experience of checking all the distances with Panthera slug shooting from 10 yards to 130 yards every 10 yards. So I put the targets and I could check it, and after that I shot steel targets up to, if I'm not mistaken, it was 300 or 330 yards, so it was rather far. And I was amazed how good Panthera shoot out of the box. So my tuning I made, it's not about the barrel tuning, just it's about my personal preferences, I would say, and it shot really well. At the end of Wednesday, I was surprised and very happy to hear that FX Airguns USA invited me to live in FX house during competition, so I could cancel my hotel booking and live with the guys I was familiar with and with my mates with my teammates and with guys who share my ideas. So I was very happy with it. So I started my way at 4:30 morning to Boston. I was in FX house at 9 o'clock. I just put my baggage away and followed to Northeast Airgun Classic registration. It seems to me that I was there about 10 or 10:30 and registration would have started at 12 o'clock at midday. And great thanks to all people I've met there, and especially to Steve Ciali. He told me that, man, it's quite possible to go to shooting range to make some videos, so why don't you follow me? And I followed him. I had an opportunity to make some videos to see how it would be there. And after that, I went back to the registration. I think it's about an hour left till registration starts. Finally, I've made my dubber in person because, had a lot of communication with internet but never met before. And I've met all my guys, all my friends and teammates from Utah Airguns, and they also met me like a family member. It was such a happy moment for me because I really missed those guys. We see each other on competitions only. And after that I had registration. Everything was fine. There were a lot of people, and Zig Zauer place is really, center is really amazing. So it's a shop and it's a kind of exhibition at the same time, so it amazed me a lot. But after that I had information that we won't be allowed to practice on the shooting range. So as a fact, every person will have about something like 15 minutes to check the zero in or to zero in if they need it. And as a fact, that's all. Well, as I had all my activities needed to sight in and to check my zeros at Keith's farm, I decided not to waste time, to go back to FX house and to cook Russian. In Russian it sounds like plov. I think that in English its correct word is pilaf. So it's meat, rice, onion, carrots, garlic and some spices cooked together in a special way. And luckily all guys who came back home, they tried it, they really liked it. So I was satisfied. The next day we had qualification 1. The weather was not as bad as I expected. I would say that it was rather warm, about 20 and 13 degrees Celsius, and when sun came out it was really hot, I would say, because a lot of guys got sunburned. I'm not an exclusion here, so my skin got red. And as far as I understood, I had the best card and bench rest of this first day. So it was really fun. The weather was fine. My FX crown really did well, so I'm happy with my results. And I had an opportunity to get acquainted with Kevin Skipper. He is a vice president of FX USA. We had several hours of communication, and I really liked that guy, as well as all guys who lived in FX house. They all are friendly, and we really did had a good time. The second day of qualification was not as good as the first one. The weather wasn't sunny at all. It was cloudy. It was colder. I think it was about 10 Celsius degrees. And I know specifics of my gun that I prepared. I speak about FX Crown. It shoots well when it is 10 degrees Celsius and higher. If it is lower, it's much more complicated. It's hard to say for me what's the reason. I think that it's my probably kind of mistake, because I glued in all the barrels, and FX liner, then carbon fiber sleeve, then FX main tube, and then I glued in several carbon fiber tubes to make it rock solid. Probably that is the reason, but I'm not sure, so I can't say and being absolutely sure in it right now. So as a fact, this gun shoots perfectly when the weather is 10 degrees Celsius and higher. So the second day was really cool, and then the kind of PRS shooting style started, where I used my FX Panthera. Here I will have to roll back to the qualification first day, and at the very end we had a squash bomb shooting. You know, it was a kind of fun shooting. You had to shoot to, if I'm not mistaken, 200, 250 and 300 yards distance. You had to shoot steel targets and at 300 yards you had to shoot a steel target plus Firebird target. So when you hit it, it blows, and it's really cool to see it. But as far as I remember, only one person could do it. It's a daughter of Boyd Linder. But I had a problem there. You know, when I finished shooting at Keith's farm at the very last day, my Panthera, it was the very far distance, about 300 yards. Probably I forgot to get my scope to the 0. And as this scope was a new one for me, it was Night Force. I never used Night Force before, and it was in MOA, and I usually scope in MIL or MRAD. It's a very good scope. I really like the glass and all the mechanisms work. It was really perfect. But I didn't know how to install a zero stop there. So it was a problem. When I started shooting that squash bomb, I understood that I'm on a wrong turn of a target. So my slugs went somewhere. I couldn't hit anything, and I even didn't see where my slug hits. Well, it was a challenge. Luckily, the rules of squash bomb allows you to make as many tries as you want, but you have to go back to the line and to wait till you turn again. When I understood the trouble I had, I asked the guys who organized competitions, is there any possibility to sight in? Is there any special range or any ability to sight in and to check the scope? They said that unfortunately they didn't have this opportunity. Well, you know, it was a problem for me, because the next day I had to start shooting PRS style competitions, and there's no any sense shooting them when you are not sure on what turn of your turrets of your scope you are in. So luckily guys from Utah Airgun's team gave me an advice to go to public place and just to check my scope. That's exactly what I did, but there were some, I would say, worried citizens who made videos of me shooting out of the car to the earth to check the place where my slug go. Luckily I didn't have any problems with police or something else, and by the way, guys, said that the actions I did are absolutely legal, so okay, but it's not that easy in Russia, so I was a bit nervous, of course. And then I had my time to come back to Sig Sauer and to participate in these very competitions, and I could hit 200, 250 yards targets, but I didn't hit 300 yards. Anyway, I was happy that I found out the correct target position, and the next day I could participate in practice shooting. You know, unfortunately I didn't make any videos of my practice shooting, but I wanna say you that it was my very first experience of shooting that kind of competitions, and I really had fun. You know, my previous experience includes a huge work for ballistics calculations, so it was not a problem for me to calculate all the distances and all the corrections I had. But shooting from all that unstable positions, like shooting from tank trap or crab trap, or shooting from a shooting house from different windows and positions. It was really challenging. The very best stage I really liked a lot was a stage where Justin Jacobson was in charge. So there were a huge number of positions you had to shoot from. So it was a roof stage. You had to shoot from kneeling position, standing position, prone position. Prone position I had to shoot to 170 yards distance. Guys, it is really far, but I really liked it, and as far as I understood, I did probably one of the best results, at least as Justin said to me. Another result I really liked and stage, and I really liked it, and I had a good result, is shooting to 100 yards distance from prone positions to different sizes of steel targets. So I had one shot to 2-inch yards targets, and all other shots were made to the smallest targets. If I'm not mistaken, it is 1-inch target, and I had only one miss. So I really like Panther gun. I really like slugs I use, and it was fun. I really had fun, and that was a long day and cold day, I would say. After that, I came to FX house, had a bit of whiskey, copied all the video materials that I've made, and just decided to have some rest. But then Ernest Rowe came to me and said that we have to go to a restaurant. Guys are waiting for you. FX guys, just to have some fun. I said, okay, of course, let's go. And we had really great evening. So we had a fun day that time. The next day final came, and the weather was awful. It was rain, it was very cold. It wasn't too windy, but it was much colder than I expected it to be, to tell you the truth, because that days in Russia and Moscow we had plus 20 degrees and even more. Guys just wearing t-shirts were practicing in the open field, and me having my t-shirt, my Utah Airguns t-shirt, then having my hoodie, having my jacket. I felt cold, guys. It was just really cold, yes. Guys who organized competitions, they had to cover targets with special tents. I would say that the weather was not bright at all, and those targets, they had very dark zone of 8 score and 10 score. When you shoot 22 caliber and hit that zone, there's no any chance to see the hole from the pellet you shoot. I even tried to check it with 75x zoom radio spotting scope, but I didn't see my hits on the target. And when you didn't see the hit where you can't correct your next shot. And it was really challenging for me, because I didn't have an idea where my pellets go. I just had to count my shots, so 1, 2, 3, and so to 25, to be sure that I shot all the targets. I know that Northeast Air Guns realized all the problem with the targets, and next time they will use different ones, because using these ones, just crazy. And I don't wish anyone to shoot those targets in those conditions. But if I had not my Callus with me, but if I had my Theos that I have now, Element Optics Theos, probably situation will be different, because Element Optics Theos that I have now on my FX Crown shows me much more details than I had on my Callus K525i. So probably that could change situation, but we have what we have. So we finished shooting, and then we went to a restaurant to have a perfect banquet and to be rewarded. I wouldn't say that I had any success in bench rest, but my approach to all competitions I take part in is very simple. If you make everything you could, and if you put all your powers, all your knowledge and all your skills, and you can truly say to yourself that you did it, so you couldn't do better and you should be happy with it. And result and place you get shouldn't care you much. And in this very situation I can absolutely truly say that I did my best and I couldn't do better. So everything is fine, and I was a bit tired. Probably I was a bit sad because after checking the targets I understood that I'm not in top 3. But you know, when you compete at that level, when best shooters shoot at competitions, it's not possible to be number 1 all the time or even be in top 3. And you have to take into account that 2nd, 3rd and 4th place took the same score. And I'm very happy and very proud to be a part of Utah Airguns teams because, you know, if I'm not mistaken, almost all the top places in PRS shooting competitions and in bench rest were filled with Utah Airguns shooters. It's such an honor for me to shoot for that company and to shoot for that team and to shoot together with these guys whose attitude to me and my attitude to them the same as attitude to my family members. And the greatest surprise for me was that I took the 3rd place in these PRS shooting style competitions. I didn't expect it to be so. It was my very first experience, and you know, it was really fun, I would say. Justin Jacobson, like, he knows my phrase, no time for fun, and he really likes it. But this time it was fun. I really liked it, and I will practice it and will try to show something good on next competitions that I get prepared for. It's Rocky Mountain Airgun Challenge. So we had our awards, we had excellent dinner, and I was so happy to see everyone there, to communicate with them, to just feel the warmth of Big Airgunners family. It was really cool. The next day I had to pack all my things and all my belongings, and you know, it took me about 4 hours to make all preparations. Then I drove my car for about 5 hours to JFK and had long flight back home. I was tired, but I was happy because, you know, it was a new experience for me. I met my good friends, mates, buddies, and that was really cool. At the very late night of Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, I came back home, had a short sleep, and I was woken up by my kids, who were so happy to see me. They just came to my room, jumped on me and said, "Daddy's back home." That was great. And I want to say great thanks to FX USA, to Utah Airguns, to Northeast Airguns for all that experience they give us. They all made a huge job, and I was amazed how just, if I'm not mistaken, 4 guys from Northeast Airguns could organize that level of competitions. You know, I have experience and I do organize our club competitions in Russia. I know many things about that hard job, and I really appreciate everything they did. So thanks for watching, guys. Just in 2.5 weeks I leave to Rocky Mountain Airgun Challenge, and that's gonna be the biggest challenge as far for me. So see you there. Bye.